order fractions. We have looked at fractions and decimal numbers on a number line. We know they follow a certain order. Here are some common fractions and decimal numbers shown in order on the number line. These are fourths and their equivalent decimal numbers. We add thirds and the numbers 1/10 and 9/10. We can use a number line to help us order fractions and decimal numbers. There are some symbols we use when we compare numbers. This symbol means equals or equal to. This symbol means not equal. This is the symbol we use to show less than. And this symbol shows greater than. It's easy to see that 3/5 is greater than 2/5 because the denominators are the same. It is not as easy to compare 1/3 and 1/4. We need to find a common denominator. Since 3 times 4 is 12, we know that we can use 12 as a common denominator. 1/3 equals 4/12. And 1/4 equals 3/12. Now that the fractions have a common denominator, we can write them in order. 4/12 is greater than 3/12. This tells us that 1/3 is greater than 1/4. How do we order decimal numbers? To order decimal numbers, we need to understand total parts. Let's look at the total parts for each of the decimal numbers. The place value of the last digit tells us the total parts. The 2 is in the 10ths place. There are 10 total parts. The 5 is in the 100ths place. There are 100 total parts. This 5 is in the 1000ths place, so there are 1000 total parts. The 7 is in the 10,000ths place. There are 10,000 total parts. To order decimal numbers, the numbers need to have the same total parts. In this case, they do not. To make decimal numbers have the same total parts, we add zeros on the end of shorter numbers. In this decimal number, the 7 is in the 10ths place. To convert 7/10 into 7/100, we add a 0 on the end. Now the number is 70/100. If we want to change this to a number in the thousandths, we add another 0 on the end. Now the number is 700,000ths. If we add another 0 on the end, we get 7,010,000ths. These decimal numbers are equivalent to each other. Let's see how adding zeros to make equal total parts can help us order decimal numbers. The smallest place value is here. This 9 is in the thousandths place. We need to change each number to thousandths in order to compare them. We add 2 zeros to 1/10 to make it 100,000ths. We add 1 0 to 900ths to make it 90,000ths. This number is already in the thousandths place. It is 59,000ths. Now that all of the numbers have the same place value, we can compare them. 59,000ths is less than 900ths. 900ths is less than 1/10. Now the numbers are in the correct order. How do we order decimal numbers with decimal rulers? Another way to order decimal numbers is with a special tool called a decimal ruler. A decimal ruler works like a number line. It is divided into 100 parts. There are 10 long lines between 0 and 1. Each line represents 1/10. Between each long line, there are 10 shorter lines. Each shorter line represents 1/100th. Let's put these decimal numbers in order using a decimal ruler. If the first longer line between 0 and 1 is 1/10, then halfway to that line must be 5/100ths. This is one of our numbers. Since we know where 5/100ths is, we can easily find 2/100ths. 15/100ths is greater than 1/10. And we can easily find 2/10ths. If we move to the right 3 more long lines, we are at 5/10ths. Now we can write our decimal numbers in order. Let's try using the decimal ruler to order another set of decimal numbers. These numbers are all between 4 and 5. We will use a decimal ruler that starts at 4. Remember that the long lines are tenths. This line is 4 and 1/10. Our first number is 4 and 12/100ths. This number is 2 short lines, or hundredths, past the first long line. The next number, 4 and 23/100ths, is past 4 and 2/10ths. The next long line is 4 and 3/10ths. 4 and 68/100ths is 8 short lines greater than 4 and 6/10ths. And we move right 2 more long lines to get to 4 and 8/10ths. Now we can write the decimal numbers in order.